Shiapa Ruche Tempe Trinle Yargoda Helge Drolor Zampe Zeparchen Palde Lame Shabla Solvade Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sanekal Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha San Uta Vardani Shri Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Shasane Karma Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Kar Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Kar Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Kar Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Kar Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Kar Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Kar Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Sane Karma Uta Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Suma Timonisha Vardani Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Dagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Gebe Shesan Dala Tendo So Uyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Seje Nyingne Sowa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Viso Lekshune Ila Sambe Dede Malupa Geme Lungi Drubra Jingilo Soni sodan dikun shapetse dunge namke yinsu lekshune lapchen soni yonsu tsopadan chera nidun chamra jingelo chancho parge ninsen tukun to nyu peme siudru lekshune chancho drube gegen kunshishi tungen de la drubra jingelo dagi lona chola chopadan chumi samjur nyemba shiwadan Chodan tumbe dödö malöpa beme lungi drubra jingelo dorna tingne tsera tamchedan techi pardune kav tamchetu rese kemne lama keleme tuje chingi dalas gongya brewe nyamda dachala jetsun lame tuje rab gongne kudan sungi nawa drame tu nyamsu nyongwe kesan tobrash Kewa kundu yanda lama dan rame chiki pela lomchich Sadan lamgi yunden rabzone dorje change kopa nyurto besho Pakyuke kudan dagi lo Pakyuke sundan dagi nga Pakyuke tugdan dagi Chikto chinge aloya makyuke kudan dagi lo makyuke sundan dagi ma tugdan dagi tenyerme chikto chinge Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha Sashi Peke Chukshi Meto Chan Rira Blingshe Nide Gembadi Sange Shindul Mikte Ulwargi Druku Namda Shingla Chuparasho Yedam Guru Ratna Mandra Kamniryata Yami Sange Chodan Tsogi Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Choshe Gibe Sonamgi Drola Penchira Sange Druparash Sange Chodan Tsogi Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapso Chi Dagi Choshe Gibe Sonamgi Drola Pinchara Sange Drupare Sange Chedan Tsoge Chonamla Chancho Pardo Dani Kepsuchi Dagi Chushe Gibe Sonamgi Drola Pinchara Sange Drupare In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha I take refuge unto enlightenment through the practice of generosity and the other perfection. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nel Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione. Con la pratica della generosità e delle altre perfezioni possa io ottenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri senzienti. Taye ke dan fidan ne chen ke drugon dan dan mi ke nan dan druwa kun ge tan chi sampa tham che ke tu da ge che ten Buongiorno. Good morning. Continueremo la spiegazione della Guru Puja in inglese. Okay. So, one of the very important things for us on many levels is to have guidance. Tutto bene con la traduzione? Riuscite a sentire? Senti, ok. Quindi una delle cose molto importanti è di avere guida. One of the important things is to have guidance, is to have someone that gives us the hand, that shows us the path. I remember one time that for me was somehow symbolic. I was in south of India, in Seda Monastery, and my father used to have a Tibetan language teacher. My father stayed with me almost 2 years. And maybe it was after 1 year I was there, so I was around 13. And my father had this Tibetan teacher that was living outside of the monastery. He was a teacher in the school. It was called the SOS Tibetan Children's Village. And he was a teacher there. He was the father of one of my classmates, also another Lama. Anyhow. And one day we were at his house, and it got late, and we needed to go back home, which was something like some 5 kilometers away or something like that, or 3 kilometers. Anyhow, I don't remember precise, but it was not so far. But because it was late, it was already almost dark, there were any cars available, and normally there was like many small, like this, in India we have this auto rickshaw, which is these 3-wheelers, and that will work as taxi, and there we couldn't find any, and there was no car, so we said, okay, we go back walking. But the path going walking through the road was a very long path, because it was not on a straight line. We needed to go around, and then we needed to go downhill and then uphill again. It was quite a long path, and it was late, it was dark, no moon, new moon period. So as we were walking through, going near, when we started, after some time we met one Indian man, and I remember very clearly, and it was a local man. The local people there, they were extremely simple people, poor, materially very poor people, very, very, very simple peasants. No? And then the man said, what you are doing? He saw these two Westerners in the middle of the beginning of the race, already dark, walking around there. We said, oh, Seda Monastery. He said, I take you. Come. We go through the fields of the plantation. They have corn plantation there. He said, oh, then I show you a straight line. But all of this with signs, not really with words, because we didn't speak the same language. No? So he said, okay. So he started walking us through the plantations, which looks easy, but is actually very difficult.
because there are many points where you cannot go through, and there's places which are little dangerous because they are very big steps to go through, and places where the water goes by. It's not obvious at all. It's like a maze to go through the plantations, no? And it was dark, and we had no torch. So we were walking behind him, trying to understand, and he had matches in his hand. So whenever there was anything where he thought it would be danger, he would light a match and show for us. So we would see, and then we will be careful, you know. He was so kind. And then, in a much, much faster way than it would be otherwise, we reached home safely, you know. And we were in a place that we had no idea how to go. If he would have left us suddenly, we would be completely lost, almost there. And it was somehow danger. But he was like really showing us everything, you know, even with only his matches. After we tried to give some money to him, he didn't accept. You know, he was very, very kind, this man. So this remained this image that when we go through a terrain, through a path that we have not been before, we need someone that knows it very well and that has the kindness to show it to us. But once we have found a good guide, then we need to follow the path. Okay? So one very important thing is that in Buddha's teachings and in all the later commentaries and teachings that came from the masters after him, they put very clear which are the steps that we need to follow. Very, very clear. Okay? And are not practical steps, are inner steps. Practical in the sense not external, but they are inner steps of states of consciousness that we need to develop. Okay? So these steps are called traditionally more well known as Lamrim. Lam means path, Rim means stages. So the stages of the path. Okay? The stages of, the gradual stages of the path. The path is not something external, the path is something internal. Okay? Even when we study in the philosophical texts, we say that in this context of Dharma, we say Lam, Montok, Yeshe, Kempa, Tunchik, which means path. And then there are other words which means states of consciousness, wisdom, and so on. They are all synonymous. Which means when we talk about path, we are referring to states of consciousness. So it's the development of one's own state of consciousness. Okay? And there is a very clear path to follow. Okay? So the whole explanation of this path starts by first relying correctly upon a spiritual guide. It's like if I need to take a long road, first I need to find my guide. So, okay, go to travel agencies, get your guide. Once we have our travel guide, then we need to follow him. Then our trip starts. Okay, so the last days we were talking about relying correctly upon the Guru and looking for the Guru and what are the qualities that we should look in a Guru as our spiritual guide and so on. Okay. The next part after that is once having found a spiritual guide, how to follow the path or what is the path to be followed. Okay. So this is what we will start to see today. Okay. So one thing I will do, hopefully I can manage the time to prepare for you, is according to the commentary of the Guru Puja, there are all the, how do you say, all the subjects, all like topics somehow, no, of the division of the path, okay? Which actually in the new version of the Guru Puja that we printed, we will have, most of them we have put inside. And when we did, I did it in accordance with the commentary of the Guru Puja. So that will help us also. Okay? So if we look in the text, page 137, no? We have verse 85. No? And when we did this text, we put the verses, the meaning of the verses of the specific verse, but we didn't put the general topics. Okay, otherwise it would be too much. So for example, in verse 85 starts the main topic, which means how to follow the path to enlightenment. No? And then this part, it's divided it itself into two. The general path of Sutra and the specific path of Tantra. Then inside the path of Sutra, we have divided into three parts. The small scope, the middle scope, and the higher scope. Okay? We will go to the meaning of this as we move along. Okay? But all of this are basically steps that we need to do on our path. Okay? So we should not have hurry, I want the higher scope. No, we need to start with the small scope. And it's so beautiful, the small scope. It's so important. We have no hurry to reach anywhere. It is said that all these steps is like if we have a staircase, we need to do one step at a time. If we try to jump too much, we will fall down. So we need to respect each one of the steps. Okay? So, it is important for us to have this understanding that there is a clear path to follow. Okay? And one thing that is important is that we need at some point to study it, to learn it, so that in our mind we can have at least one general idea. First I need to do this, then I need to do that, then I need to do that, then I need to do that. We should have at least one sort of roadmap in our mind of our own path to follow. That's very important. It is said that the great masters of the Kadampa lineage, the disciples of Atisha, they could reveal the complete path to enlightenment. They could remember and reveal the whole path of where they were until the state of enlightenment, everything they need to do, in the time necessary to mount a horse. Okay, and they would mount horse quick. Okay, they were not very slow on that. It was to say the time that you put one foot on the horse and to go on top of the other tlak, that's the time that they took because they were so familiarized with the complete path. They had it very clear inside of them. And that's the lineage that we follow. So it's important for us to have one understanding. Okay, what I need to do? Which are the milestones that I want to reach? Which are the path? No, which are the steps? And these steps, they are so important also because once we learn them, we can see, oh, it's possible. Because if we only look at the final result, that's too far from me. Impossible. I will never reach that. But if we look at the first step from where we are, can I do the first step? Not so easy, but yes, I can do. Then after that, there is a second step. Oh, okay. And then we will see that there are very precise steps for us to follow. Okay? And this is something very special. We don't need all to follow these steps exactly in the same precise way. The order is the same. The methods that we use to realize these inner states of consciousness can be different. But the actual states of consciousness that needs to be developed are the same for every practitioner. Okay? Since the time of Buddha. So it's not like all the teachings are given in a different way according to the different capacities and needs of disciples. Yes, are different ways to guide onto the same path. The path is one. The path is only one. If we take the Hinayana teachings, the Mahayana teachings, the Vajrayana teachings, if we take everything, ultimately the path is one. Okay, we can have different ways of guiding through this path. But the objective is one and the path is one. The qualities that we need to develop are the same. Okay? So, what this path is about is not about Buddhism specifically. It's about what is the inner process that we need to develop in order to get out of the cycle of suffering. We can call ourselves Buddhist, or we can call ourselves Christians, or we can call ourselves Muslim, or we can call ourselves following any religion, or we can say, I don't want any religion at all. Okay? According to Buddha's teachings, anyone that wants to reach a state of peace, of so-called liberation from suffering, must to do the steps. And which are the instruments used to do these steps doesn't really matter so much. Okay? We have very clear instruments from our own tradition and lineage, but this doesn't mean that these are the only valid instruments to do that. Okay? So, okay. So, here the path is divided mainly into two parts. The part of so-called Sutra and the part of Tantra. Okay? The part of Sutra is divided, as we said before, into three parts, which is called the small scope, the middle scope, and the higher scope. Okay? Which the name scope in Tibetan is called Kibu, which means the bean, like a small bean, middle bean, and higher bean. But scope, I think, in our language sounds better. Okay? Otherwise, it looks like, oh, they are superior and inferior or something like this. Has nothing to do with that. It's the process through which we go through. The main difference is that the small scope, or Kibuchung Gilam, is related to, how to say, transcending our mundane needs. Opening our mind to the Dharma. Opening our heart and our mind to the spiritual path. Okay? So, being able to generate a higher objective that transcends this life. This is the small scope, which is already very big. Huh? Okay, it's not small, but that's called the small scope. The middle scope is to transcend the mundane needs regarding future lives. So there is, for example, if in this life my objective is to act well because I want to be reborn in a pure land, I want to be reborn in heaven, that's connected to the small scope. If I say, I don't care so much if I go to heaven or to the pure land or what happens in my future life, I need to go out of the cycle of suffering completely, that's called the middle scope. And when our priority becomes the common well-being of others, so when our path is based on love and compassion towards others, and when our whole spiritual development is nothing more than a tool, an instrument to help and support others, that's called the higher scope. Okay? But we cannot reach the higher scope without first passing through the small scope and then through the middle scope. Then we can reach the higher scope. Okay? So, we start now with the part which refers to the small scope. And I want to put emphasis into this, that the small scope, it's extremely important. Because without going well through the smaller scope, we will never ever reach the higher scope. Because normally what happens when we try to jump the small scope directly to the higher scope, which means we want right away to develop bodhicitta, the danger, which very often happens in this case, is that we don't truly care about others. We don't truly develop the real love and compassion towards others. What happens is that we developed an idealized image of ourselves being someone that cares for others, instead of truly caring for others. Okay? I want to be the big bodhisattva. I don't want to care for others. I don't want to help others. I want to be the bodhisattva. You see the difference? Okay? There is a difference between being, I want to save the world, and I want to be the savior of the world. There is a difference in between. I don't know if it's clear, this. Okay? And we need to be very careful into that, because it's a very dangerous trap that we can fall into. We may think that we are doing the best because we want to save the world, but truly what we want is to be the savior of the world. We don't care about the world. We don't care about others. We care about being the savior of the world. And to be the savior of the world, I make myself believe that I care for others. Okay? I'm sorry if I am so direct. Okay? So in order not to fall into that trap, we must first learn how to care for ourselves. Truly. Then naturally we will be able to open ourselves to others and start caring for others. Okay? That's why we go through this small scope, medium scope, and higher scope. Okay? So, the small and the medium scope is also called loving oneself. And the higher scope is called loving others. Okay? It is said it's the same feeling, it's the same attitude. The only difference is that in the first case it is towards oneself, and in the second is towards others. So in the small and the middle scope, we have love towards ourselves, and then the same love we open towards others, and that's when it becomes the higher scope. Okay? Okay. So, as we go here, let's go to the verse 85. So it says, Lenchik tsampe nyebe delchur di nyeka nyurtu jikpe tsul tokne töme tsedi chawe miyenwar tönde nimbo lembra chingilop. This verse we can say weeks in it. It's part which is called developing the aspiration to take the essence of our human life, which means is what is necessary, which are the steps to develop the state of consciousness in which we want to give meaning to this life. We want to make this life useful, meaningful. That's what is called in Tibetan, we say to take the essence, which means to make the life meaningful. Okay? So in order to be able to make this life meaningful, in order to be able to see this life not as a goal by itself, but as a tool for something higher, there are some steps that we need to do. Okay? And there are many of these steps are condensed in one verse. That's why I said we could stay at least 1 week in it. Okay, so I think we can stay at least today and maybe tomorrow, but we see how it goes. So the verse says, realizing how this freedom and endowments is found but once, is difficult to obtain and is easily lost, we seek your blessings to partake of its essence, make it worthwhile, and not be distracted by the meaningless affairs of this life. Okay. The next verse after, the first verse that we are reading is how to develop the aspiration to make this life meaningful. And the second verse is what to do to make this life meaningful. Okay, but first we need to have the wish to make this life meaningful. Then after we can go into practical things, how to make this life meaningful. Okay? So we will start with the first. Okay? Lenchik tsampe. Nyebe delchordes. Lenchik one time. Tsam only. Nyebe to find. Deljor. Deljor is a word in Tibetan which is translated as freedom and endowments, which in other words, tel means time, relaxed. Okay? Jor means to gain, to receive. That's why it's called as richness. Freedom is as time, tel. Endowments, richness, it's the jor, things that we receive. Okay? So what's the meaning of this deljor, that we can reach but only once? This is showing us the first step on the path, which is to realize the preciousness of this life. No? Preciousness of this life. Okay? The preciousness of this life, which is not referred only to be a human. It means with all the conditions that we have. In no moment, this is a mistake in translation, that sometimes say the preciousness of a human rebirth. No. The prescience of having all the freedoms and endowments. That's two different things. We can have a human rebirth without freedom. We can have a human rebirth without richness. Here we are talking about having the human rebirth with all the necessary conditions to be able to follow correctly the path to enlightenment. Okay, this is what is called deljor in Tibetan. So, this first step that we need to develop is this inner state of consciousness in which we develop a great joy whenever we think about, oh, how fortunate I am. Look at my life. Is that Papunka Rinpoche described this like when waking up in the morning and saying, oh, how fortunate I am that I am alive, that I have not died this night, and that I have my full body, I am healthy, I can practice the Dharma, wow. It's like, that's amazing, that's incredible what I have here. So if we ask, what's the first step on the path? If someone asks you, okay, I start following Buddhism, what's the first step for Buddhism? The joy to be alive. With the conditions that we have. The joy of this life. The preciousness that we have within this life. Okay, to recognize such preciousness. Which means that we stop taking for granted every moment. We stop taking for granted every day. We stop taking for granted the opportunity that we have in this life. Okay? So this is the first step that we need to do, which is already a lot. Huh? If we're able to do that, we say, wow, that's very good. So let's try to see how we do that. Because does it come spontaneous to us? Do we wake up in the morning and say, how fortunate I am that I am alive with all these wonderful conditions? No, we don't, right? We wake up in the morning and say, oh, I had a dream like this. I need to go to my work today. Oh, I have to meet that person. Oh, I don't know what to do. Oh, what a nice day. Okay. Or we just don't think about anything. Just take the phone. Okay. This afternoon I will bring one text which I like to read together, which I had made translated, which is a text written by Papunka Rinpoche, which was the guru of Lama Ganchen. And Papunka Rinpoche was the guru of all gurus at his time. So basically in our lineage, all the masters of Gelupa tradition nowadays present, all of them were disciples of Trichan Rinpoche, of Son Rinpoche, of Ling Rinpoche. And all of them and all the other masters of their generation, they were all disciples of Papunka Dechen Nimpo. Okay? And Papunka Dechen Nimpo, during his period of study and practice, he did 1.5 year retreat on Lamrim. So when going through each one of these topics, he would go to his guru, and the guru would explain to him, for example, the preciousness of this life. Nothing else, just that part. And then he would go to his own meditation retreat place, which was like a small hut in the cave. And his teacher was in another mountain meditating, it's like a few hours walk. So he would go there, receive the instructions. Then he would go back to his place and he would go to meditate until he had a very clear insight, until he was able to generate that state of consciousness within himself clearly. Then he would go back to his guru and say, oh, I have got this and that insight. I feel like this, and like that. And his guru would say, wonderful, now we go to the next step. Or his guru would say, okay, you need still to meditate more. And during this process, Papunka Rinpoche would write down notes about his own insights. Okay? So that notes, later, one of his disciples found all the notes put together. And some papers were even a little bit like destroyed, eaten by animals and things like this. So he found all of that, and his disciple said, oh, what is that? I said, oh, no, that's just my notes of my Lamrim retreat, He said, oh, that's so precious. So they put it together and made a book out of it, okay, which is called Lagle Marjaningi Turma, okay, which is called the naked experience, the naked practice of the gradual path to enlightenment as the spoon that takes the essence of the heart, that are the spoons that takes the essence. That's the name he gave. And it has been a text that touched me very deeply. That's why no one had done the translation for as long as I knew, so we made a translation of it and we have published it also. When Trichan Rinpoche came one time, we published this text. Okay, so maybe now we don't need to move anything, we can get it. Oh yeah, maybe Don, if you get me one copy of it now, then after you also know, we make some publicity also that we have this book. But it's very special, especially in this first part. So the whole beginning, Papunka Rinpoche starts saying, how happy I am that I am awake, that I am alive. So this joy, it's the first step, okay, in which we see the preciousness of the opportunity we have. So let's see a little bit why we need to be joyful. What's the reason of the opportunity that we have? Okay. When we talk about freedoms and endowments, we have freedom in the sense that we are free from situations that otherwise will not allow us to develop ourselves spiritually. Okay? So, for example, if we would be in a situation in which we didn't have any mental capacity. So, for example, if we would have a disease in our brain, as sadly happened to some people, no? Or if we were reborn as an animal, which animals are wonderful, they are beautiful. But animals don't have the same ability to listen, to understand, and to project. Okay? Okay. So we have freedom because we are free from situations. For example, if we would be in the middle of war, what would be our main priority occupying our mind? Safety. To survive. Safety. Okay? If we would have constant hunger, if we would be really in a lot of hunger, which I'm sorry to say, many people, way too many people in this world are in this condition. Okay? The last numbers that I saw were already a few years ago. I don't know how is the situation right now. It was that at the time it was been talking about 6 billion people in the world. Now we already talk about 7 billion people in the world. When we talk about 6 billion people in the world, the number was that 2 billion people 2.5 billion people were below the poverty line. That's a number which it's even difficult to try to imagine it. What does it mean to be below the poverty line? Means not to have any certainty of survival. Okay? Which means I wake up in the morning, I don't know if I am going to have lunch, I don't know what I will do tomorrow, I have no any certainty of this. And many people, there is such an immense amount of people that wake up hungry and go to sleep hungry almost all their life. Okay? And you don't get used to it. Okay? So, it's like when we take the 8 Mahayana precepts. For me, it's hilarious. Because the thing that worries most people is, how can I do if I don't eat after lunch, you know? To eat only once. I see very many times I saw people worrying so much, but I need to take the commitment that I only eat once in a day. And what happens if I get hungry? You wait the next day. And so what, you know? But I will get hungry. Yes. And so what? You know? And then it looks like the whole thing is about not eating, when that's just one very small part of the whole 8 Mahayana precepts. But another time I would like to give a commentary explanation on the 8 Mahayana precepts. That's another thing. Okay? But the point is that we have so much difficulty feeling hungry. Because when we are hungry, where our attention goes to? Our hunger. We want to find food. We want to eliminate that suffering. Okay? Not only that, if we do not nourish ourselves well, even our physical capacities of comprehension and mental capacities, emotionally, everything degenerates in a tremendous way. There is one study which was made by our friend Bernard Gesch, in which he proved scientifically that by simply taking the correct amount of vitamins and proteins, having a balanced diet, was already diminishing violence in the high security prisons for 32%. Just by giving a good diet. Because, scientifically speaking, the brain, when the brain doesn't have all the nutrients necessary, it's not well nourished, it starts reacting. The person gets more aggressive, the person gets more violent by not having a good nutrition. Okay? So, if a person is constantly hungry, doesn't have the correct nutrition, can we expect such person to sit down and meditate? Can we expect this person to think about making this life meaningful and helping others? No. It's not because these people are not able. We will not be able if we would be in that situation. We are not superior to anyone. We are just in a very privileged condition. Okay? When we see someone like an immigrant that has gone through so many difficulties as we see nowadays, we don't even imagine what these people have gone through. No? I had one friend that was helping the place with the immigrants here, teaching them Italian, and then was telling me the stories of each one of them, of some of them. It's crazy what these people have been through. Some of them, first they were trying to go somewhere in Africa, then they were taken by some people smugglers that kept them as slaves for many years. Then they were able to escape from them, and then they end up in the hand of the smugglers that takes them to Europe. Then they need to pass because they cannot go back. Then they arrive here and they need to work so hard in a complete illegal way because they have someone in their country threatening to kill and to harm their family if they don't work in the system that they want here in order to give them money. We don't imagine when we see. But can we expect someone in these conditions to be able to sit down and think, oh, anger is harmful, I need to develop patience and love and compassion? No. And we are not better than them. We simply have a better opportunity. I saw this for me one time very clearly when I was in the airport of Malpensa in Milan. It was a very subtle thing, but it was very meaningful. And it was the period in which in the airport of Malpensa there were not enough trolleys. Okay, now it's maybe the only airport in the whole world that I have been that you need to pay for the trolleys. That's another thing. But anyhow, at the time there were no trolleys available. So I arrived from Brazil, and there was a lot of people with a lot of luggage. And many people I remember, the people that were a little bit like maybe younger with less luggage, they were somehow managing to take their luggage. Then there was all these people, many of them like beautiful ladies, very well dressed, everyone very polite. Nice people, according to our society standards, no? Very nice people. And they were there, and then suddenly arrived 5 trolleys, but there were at least 25 people waiting. And then suddenly there were all these people, very nice and polite, holding the trolleys and each one pulling to their own sides, And they would start shouting to each other and saying the most terrible things. They were almost beating each other for the trolley. And I looked at that and I just thought, what if instead of trolleys it was food? What would they do? What we would have done? So the fact is that we are in a very special condition, because when you talk about freedom, is having inner space to be able to look within and to look to the other. So if we look inside this world, 2.5 billion people in hunger. That's at least the number I was told. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less, but it doesn't really matter for us right now. In the sense that it makes no real difference. It's a lot. It's way too much. Okay? So we are free from that. And that's not something small. We cannot take it for granted. Okay? Second, there is another 2.5 billion people. That's the number from the World Bank that I heard, that are just above the poverty line. Which means people that live to survive. That you need to work 12 hours, 16 hours, 18 hours a day in order to make sure that you have food in your plate. No? So, what happened is that if we need to live in that standards, that we wake up at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning to go to the factory, to stay the whole day working like machines, that you have your time to go to the toilet counted, that you need to go there and then you come back in the end of the day completely tired and maybe need to do a second job in order to be able to pay the bills. How much inner space is there to truly look towards oneself and to look towards others and try to understand reality and meditate and all of that? There are exceptions, But for most people, is there any space for that? No. Okay. Then we have a whole other part of the people that are above the state of needing to survive, have enough resources to survive without needing to worry too much about survival. That's why we are part of it. Okay? Within this, how many people are actually slaves of money, slaves of wealth, slaves of pleasure, slaves of power, of image, of one's own image? How many people actually live for money? You know, we live in a system in which, you know it much better than me, because somehow I am out of it. But we live in a system in which we study to work. We work to earn, and we spend everything that we earn, and we still need more, so it's never enough. No? So we create needs, the society somehow, the whole system create needs for us, so that the more I earn, the more I spend. And so it's more or less that metaphor which we are called, which is said, you know, I buy the car to go to work, I work to pay the car. And we are in the middle of this. And once then when we reach our final liberation called pension, you know, then our mind is too much used to that system, and we don't have any more space so much to start acting in a different way and following the path. For many of us, it's not possible. Sure, there are exceptions. Okay, I'm talking about the general system. Okay, and in between what is done most of the time, we try to somehow make a sort of anesthesia of our sufferings and everything with pleasures. Indulging oneself in many pleasures, indulging oneself in some sort of brain paralysis with mental distractions. Because what happened? Work hard, indulge oneself in pleasure. Eating, drinking, smoking, sex, whatever. Then, on the other time, do something to forget about the problems and the suffering. Turn on the television. Okay, work. Indulge oneself in pleasure, fight, discuss, whatever, and then, again, no? Just remain into something. It's actually shocking to see how life passes by. How many people we know that are like that? You know? Okay? And we are not so much out of that, okay? But somewhere, for some reason, which I don't know which is, we were able to have something more. Okay? Which doesn't make us superior to anyone. It means we have better opportunities. Because we are not slaves of money, we are not slaves of pleasure and all of that. Otherwise, we would not be here today. Okay. At some point in our lives, we have seen and we say, okay, I need to do something different. I need to change myself. I need to make my life meaningful. I need somehow to help others. I need to help myself. I understand that there is an inner reality through which I need to transform myself and so on. Okay? So that already makes us to have conditions which are extremely rare. We have the part of freedom. We have a healthy body, relatively healthy body. No one here has a perfect body. No? According to Tibetan medicine, we will have a perfect healthy body only in the day that we are free from ignorance, anger, and insatisfaction. Okay? So until the moment that we are totally driven by attraction, aversion, and ignorance, as long as we have these mental defilements strong within us, that long we will have inner imbalances in our body, and so we will not have a perfectly healthy body. Okay? But we have a relatively healthy body, right? Most of us. I don't know the health state of each one of you. But from what I see, it's quite okay. Okay? We are not in constant pain. We have our 5 senses that work well. We have the 6th sense of the mind that we can understand things. Okay? So this is part of richness that we gain. We have good senses. We have the freedom of time. We have met someone that can guide us through a spiritual path. Because, from all these people, there are many people that they would like to follow a spiritual path, but have no idea where to begin. And there are many other people that actually they have found something to try to make meaning to their life from a spiritual perspective also, but have found someone or a system to guide them that guides them in a way that is more harmful than beneficial. I just make one example, which has nothing to do with one or another tradition. It's just one example. It happens in some traditions, the concept that in order for you to have your own spiritual developments, you need to kill animals as offerings. Okay, according to the view of Buddhism, no one will ever gain spiritual development, will become a better person with its own qualities by the violence of killing other beings. Okay. It's like Anguni Lamala, which was a disciple of Buddha, that he was a very fragile person. And he had a very, very strong sense of guilt. So someone convinced him that in order for him to be liberated from his suffering and for him to liberate his parents from their suffering also, he needed to kill 1,000 people as an offering for a certain god. And that's what he did. He arrived 999. He was feared by all as the worst assassin. And then finally, the last one, when he was about to complete the 1,000th one, he met Buddha. And he started running after Buddha to kill him. And Buddha would walk very calmly. But he could never reach Buddha. So one moment he started shouting and he said, "Can you stop running? I cannot reach you." And then Buddha said, "I am not running. I have already stopped. You are the one that are constantly moving." Which was referring, I am out of the cycle of suffering. You are the one that are constantly moving. No? And anyhow, Buddha was able to touch his heart, to show him a clear path, and then he changed completely his behavior, and he became one of the disciples of Buddha and so on. No need to go through the details right now. Okay? And but he was a person that wanted to do something spiritually somehow, but was guided in the wrong way originally. Okay? And there are many ways how this can happen in life. I am not saying Buddhism is the only way, but it's one of the right ways. There are many ways. If it is any method that is taught to us that is going to help us to develop more love, more stability, more wisdom, more kindness, and so on, then it's a correct method for us. Okay? So, if we look in percentages, in this planet, that's what we can know from our own capacity of perception. Buddhism teachings in Buddhist cosmology says that there are hundreds of thousands of millions of worlds, of solar systems. And we could be reborn in any of them, actually. Okay. So, but let's talk about this world right now. That's what we can see. So, if we would make some sort of percentage, what's the percentage of people, according to our own capacity of understanding, that have the basic conditions to be able to follow correctly a spiritual path? That have actually the freedoms and the endowments to follow a spiritual path? 50%? 50? 50%? No. Okay. People that have the right conditions to follow the spiritual path. People that have the time. The percentage of people that have the inner freedom and space to be able to sit and meditate and have this inner space. The people that live in total hunger? No, there are exceptions. They would have the potential. It's nothing regarding, these people are not able. The conditions do not allow. People that live in war, the conditions do not allow. People that are living totally for survival, the conditions do not allow. People that are completely slaves of power and money and distraction and entertainment, as to say, the conditions do not allow. People that want to follow a spiritual path but have not met anyone, conditions would allow, but they have not the richness. So, how many people have the right conditions that would allow a clear spiritual path of development? Very, very small part. Okay? We may think, that's normal because we live in an extremely privileged part of society, of the world. Okay? And within this privileged part of the world in which we live, okay? What's the percentage of people that have the richness of having someone that can guide them correctly on a spiritual path? That have the motivation truly to develop themselves to become better human beings on the path so-called to enlightenment, independently of religion. Even if we look within religion, it's very easy to see how many people are truly within a spiritual path and how many people are just using religion as a spiritual method for mundane reasons. No? We don't need to go far. If we take our book of dedications, okay? And if we would take all the requests for prayer and we divide it into categories, okay? And then we do the same in all the churches, in all the temples, everywhere, and we would be able to see even the prayers that people do by themselves, within themselves, in their own silence. How many prayers are done for health, for a job, for winning the lottery, for love, no? For, my children need this, my father needs that, and all these parts? And how many prayers are there dedicated to, I need to have more patience, I want to develop love, may I be able to be generous to everyone, I want so much my father to go beyond his anger and develop love towards all sentient beings? Okay? Which one of the two is stronger? Mundane prayers or spiritual? Mundane. But with a small difference or with a big difference? Tremendous difference. It's not like 4 to 6. It's maybe 0.1 to 9.9. Okay? We can see this in ourselves. Whenever we have been to our guru or to someone to ask for a prayer, normally why would we go to our guru or why would we go to someone to ask for a blessing and a prayer? Most of the time is for mundane reasons that regard only this life or are for reasons regarding our own spiritual development. We need to check for ourselves, But very often, we say, oh, Rinpoche, I don't feel well. Oh, Rinpoche, my child is sick. Oh, Rinpoche, I have a problem in my job. Oh, Rinpoche, I need to sell my house. Oh, Rinpoche, I need to do this, I need to do that. My boyfriend this, my husband there, my child, my this, my that. No problem, that's okay. But all of this is showing concern for things that are necessary somehow, but are superficial. So, it's rare to have the urge to develop ourselves internally. We don't have it 24 hours, maybe, but somewhere it's there. And that's already a lot. Okay? So, when we talk about having freedoms and endowments, it means to have the right conditions to be able to follow the practice, the path of Dharma. Okay? I will look for the phrase that Paponka Rinpoche talks about that. It's exactly in the very, very beginning. Karsam penchen tu mashibar, tana ta tanang yar langne, tekpa chimbo cho chegyu chungwa di shintu keba sang, tachir mashi tsu lakpa teringi nima dila, tuenche nimbo len tuba chenyam, shen ma jungyang, teringi nimo di chikbo dakbo gyabgo. It is extremely fortunate that we did not die during the night, but have awakened this morning and have the chance to practice the Mahayana Dharma. We can translate it actually also not we but I. I would see it more as I actually. I am extremely fortunate that I have not died during the night, but have awakened this morning and have the chance to practice the Mahayana Dharma. I should think of taking this essence of great value now, or in general before death, or even just for today. Even if we cannot do other things, we should keep merely today as meaningful. Which means, even though if I'm not able to make my life meaningful, at least the day of today I will make it meaningful. At least I will take care of the day of today. Now, in Tibetan it says, Shema Chungyas, even if I'm not able to do other things, Tiringi Nimo di Chikpos, only for the day of today, Dakpo Gyapko. I need to take care of it. Even though I may not be able to do my whole life meaningful, at least the day of today I need to take care of it. No? So this is like when waking up, Paponka Rinpoche is saying, oh, how fortunate I am that I have not died up to now, which is not obvious. There are many, many more reasons to die than to be kept alive. It may seem strange, but actually it's true. When we see someone, it's not strange that someone dies. It is strange that a person is alive. Oh, he died. Actually, he's alive, Because there are many more conditions to die than to be alive. It's like, one time I had one friend of mine, and he had some sort of personal trauma. He didn't want to go to the hospital, for any reason, in India. Because he said, when my teacher went to the hospital, he died. So he had this idea, I cannot go to the hospital because my teacher went to the hospital and he died. So I don't go to the hospital. Then, talking to my teacher, Genlapula, he used to say, okay, if we think like this, then we can say you cannot eat because many people died by eating. By choking, for example. Okay? Or maybe they ate something that was not very good for them. Okay? Then we cannot go out walking and we cannot take stairs because there were people that they died sleeping on the stairs and falling down. And then we cannot do almost anything. Okay? As Lama Tsongkhapa described, to be alive is like a bubble of soap in a river with many stones. There are many more conditions for us to pop than to be kept as it is. But this is the next subject, which is impermanence. Okay? But the first fact is that we have wonderful conditions. And I have no doubt of that. We have a healthy body. I repeat, relatively healthy body, but we have a healthy body. You know? We have good family conditions, relatively, you know. No one have a perfect father and a perfect mother and a perfect brother and a perfect sister and a perfect child and so on. No, but quite okay. You know. We have the minimum necessary material condition. We have met at least one person, as Lama Michel Rinpoche, that it's a Buddha, it's a perfect being. And even if we don't enter about Buddha, someone with such great love and wisdom and care that took care of us so kindly, that showed us the path, that gave us so many methods. And somewhere we have the wish to do something meaningful about our life. Otherwise we would not be here, most probably. Okay? So, these conditions, how rare are they? From all the people that you know, of your own family, of your own friends, of your own work colleagues, it's difficult to judge others. But from our own perception, how many people actually do care about their own inner development? How many people actually put some energy as something important and as a priority in their life? Is the majority? No. Can we count in our two hands? Maybe yes. Hopefully not. There are more than that. But there are not so many people. Okay? So, it's quite rare. Buddha Shakyamuni described how rare it is to have such conditions, making this following metaphor. He said, imagine a turtle that lives deep in the ocean. And this turtle has a very, very, very long life. And the turtle comes up to take air once every 100 years. Okay? The turtle is blind and is deaf. Okay? On the surface of the ocean, there is a golden ring that floats on the ocean freely, taken by the currents constantly. Okay? What are the probabilities of the turtle putting her neck through the golden ring? Very rare, right? That's the probabilities of having such conditions as we have. And someone may say, come on, that's an exaggeration. I don't think so. If we add to human beings all the other possible rebirths, as animals, as insects, as spirits, how rare is to have the conditions we have? And why being a human is better than being a dog? There is one main reason. Humans have a very, very special capacity that can be used on one's own favor or against oneself. Okay? It's the capacity of learning clearly from the path, of actually learning, that's not the correct word. the capacity of reviewing the past and imagining the future. Okay? Everyone learns from the past because every experience shapes the life of everyone. If you take a dog and you beat the dog in a certain way, you create a trauma in the dog, and the dog will be anyhow influenced by the trauma the whole life of the dog. But the dogs don't look backwards and revival what have happened, thinking all this or that. No, it's the example that once a doctor gave in a conference that I was, talking about the difference between us and the zebra. Us and the zebra. Okay? The example that he gave was that the zebra, it's in the savannah, eating very peacefully, very happily. And then suddenly comes the lion, the lioness. Because the one that hunts is the lioness, not the lion. Huh? So comes the lioness to catch the zebra. So what happens to the zebra when the zebra sees the lioness coming towards her? The heart starts beating very fast. Fear comes to the zebra. The zebra escapes and start running to escape from the lioness. At a certain point, the lioness gets distracted by a gazelle that is passing, and then the zebra is able to escape from the lioness. Okay? No more lioness coming after the zebra. What happens to the zebra at that point? It doesn't take not even 5 minutes for the heartbeat to go back to normal and start again eating the grass as if nothing had happened. What would have happened if we were in the place of the zebra? We run. We see that the zebra is not there, the lioness is not there anymore. We continue running. Who knows if the lioness would even come? We don't go back. We go back home. Then we start talking to our children and our family. Look what happened today. And we start reviving again and again the trauma. Something so terrible. Then we will institute the National Day Against Lions. And we want to make a lion-free zone. And then every time we go, we change completely our diet because it's dangerous to eat grass because lions can come and kill us. And every time we see, even when we pass by the grass, our hearts start beating. Okay? So we have this incredible capacity to revival the past, to relive the past, to live once again. How to say in English? To revive the past. Okay? Which is very powerful capacity, but often we use it against ourselves. And another capacity that we have that animals do not have, this is not something only Buddhism explained, it's something modern science also talks about this, is that one of the differences between humans and most animals is that we are able to imagine ourselves in the future. So, how much do we suffer because we imagine ourselves in the future in the wrong way? A lot, no? That's why we re-suffer the past and we pre-suffer the future. No? But that's a very powerful capacity. That's what allows us to go on the path to Buddhahood. Because any animal, as a dog, have compassion, have generosity, have love, have anger, have jealousy, and all the things, you know. Animals have the same emotions and qualities that we also want to develop or abandon. But it is said that it's not possible to show an animal the path to enlightenment. And explain to the animal, okay, now you need to change your behavior by learning a new view of reality, by keeping a morality, by familiarizing yourself with virtue, by meditating and so on, you know. Because the animal is not able to imagine itself in the future, it's not able to do that. We have this capacity. Okay? So, how rare is to be a human being, first of all, compared to all other forms of life that exist. Already very rare. Within a human being, how rare is there to have the minimum necessary conditions for a sincere spiritual path? To have a sincere spiritual path, no? How rare is that? No? As a turtle that lives up in the sea, blind and dead, to go with its head through the golden ring. You know? Another example that is given is that if you put one needle, then you take mustard seeds and you throw mustard seeds. What are the probabilities of one seed sticking on the needle? Very rare. That's the probabilities of having such conditions. Okay? And someone may say, oh, it looks exaggerated. Sincerely, I don't feel like that. Okay? So, for me it's very clear that it's quite rare to have the conditions that we have. I don't know if you see it like this also. Is it clear? Okay? But does it mean that because something is rare, it is precious? No. There are some rare diseases, I don't want them. Okay? So, why this life is rare, this opportunity that we have in this life, these conditions that we have are rare, difficult to find, and precious. What everyone wants, everyone, from the little ant, to the president, to anyone in our society, everyone, every form of life, what everyone wants is to be well and not to suffer. It's the same for everyone, without any exception. And what we have been doing, this life and all previous lives, is trying to be happy. Or not? If we look in this life, since we were a small child, what are we trying to do our whole life? Avoid suffering, do things that make us well. So we do think to try to get well-being, happiness, to find peace within ourselves, to be well and to avoid suffering. That's what we do. No? That's why we look for friends, that's why we have boyfriends or girlfriends, that's why we get married, that's why we go to work, that's why we study, that's why we come to a Dharma center, that's why we divorce, that's why whatever, If you look anything that anyone did, that we did in our lives, if we go backwards, everything that we did and that we continue to do and that everyone around us the same way is why? Because I want to be happy and I don't want to suffer. It's the same. There is no any doubt of that. The question that comes with that is, what I do normally, does it work? Because what we do the most is we try to create a perfect world. Materially, with the people around us, with our body, with our image, with the situations that we live. But does it work? What I have seen is that even when we get what we want, still it doesn't work. Oh, my dream is to have someone that really cares for me and treats me with love and care and so on. Then you get that person. Then there is another problem. Oh, what I really need is to have no any material worries. Then you get it at a certain point. Then there is another problem. Oh, if I would have a good health, everything else would be fine. then you get a good health, and then it's not enough. So what is our experience? Whenever one problem ends, at least a new one begins. And when there is no new problem, we create one. That's what happens normally. So, my experience is that there are very few things in life that the more I have, the better I am. Okay. Money, the more I have, the better I am? No. It's not that the more money I have, the better I feel. It's not like that. Power? No. Pleasure? No. The only things that the more I have, the better I am, the better I feel, no, is love. The more I feel love, the better I am. Satisfaction, stability, wisdom, peace, compassion, clarity, wisdom, generosity. Okay. So these inner qualities are that which, the more we cultivate them, the more we have of them, the better we feel. They are able to sustain an inner state of well-being and happiness. And actually, the only way to really be happy and to avoid suffering is to develop our inner qualities. And as a result, to eliminate the inner conflicts that generate our own suffering, such as our anger, our fear, our hatred, our insatisfaction, or jealousy, or and all the things that comes together with it. There is no other way. Okay? And through the conditions that we have now, which is having the minimum necessary materially, having someone that can guide us correctly through the inner process of developing our qualities, which means the path of the Dharma, and having the wish to practice and to do something ourselves, to follow that path, is the only thing that will allow us to truly reach that state of happiness that otherwise would not be possible. So these conditions that we have are more precious than what is called the Yishinge Norbo, which is the wish-fulfilling gem. Now, what is a wish-fulfilling gem? Okay, in modern terms, wish-fulfilling gem will be a bank account with maybe $100 billion. 100 billion? Yeah. Would that be enough? You know, to buy what you want, to get what you want? Okay, we can take 1 zero out, that will still be enough. Maybe 2 zeros, that will still be enough. 3 zeros, 4 zeros will still be enough. As long as we don't spend it all, you know? But the point is that with a wish-fulfilling gem, material wishes, would that bring a state of well-being and happiness? Is that wish-fulfilling gem able to take us out of the cycle of suffering? You know, being the richest man in the world, does that solve this issue of suffering of oneself? You know, we can ask them. I have met many very rich people, but I've never met anyone that is happy because they are rich. I have met rich people that had very good values, that had their own stability, that made their life meaningful, and that had their own issues also. As I had met people that were very poor and had incredible values and beautiful life, and they were much happier than most of the rich people I've ever met. Okay? It's not a matter of rich or poor. But the fact is that having these conditions that we have right now, it's more precious than a wish-fulfilling gem. No? If someone will say to us, look, you need to work 20 hours a day and sleep 4 hours, no more, and in 3 years' time, I give you $100 billion. Would we do it? Me, yes. I would say, okay, why not? You know, imagine what I can do with that, how many temples I can build, how many things I can do, you know. I would say, yes, no doubt, I go for it, you know. That's what an opportunity I have. We have something that it's much more powerful than that. Because if we develop an inner state of stability, of joy, of respect, of gratitude, of love, of wisdom, and so on, it's much more powerful than any wish-fulfilling gem. And this is the opportunity that we have right now. So why these conditions in which we are so precious? Because if used in the right way, they can allow us to get out of the cycle of suffering, which is what we have been wanting since endless lives. Okay? That's why it is so precious. Okay? So, the first step here is to reflect upon the meaning of the preciousness of this life and the rarity of this life, no? As it says, realizing how this freedom and endowments is found but once. It's a one-time opportunity. No? It's not obvious. Okay, I was here, next life I'll continue the same. It's not obvious. It is possible to keep this opportunity on, but it's not obvious. So, I was one time thinking, okay, let's say I die now. And let's think that I would have the capacity to choose where to be reborn. Let's say that we would have the total freedom to choose where to be reborn. Total clarity. We all have the freedom, but we don't have the clarity. You know, when anyone dies, has the total freedom to choose where to be reborn. We choose where we are reborn. No one forces us to be reborn anywhere. We are forced by our own ignorance, by our own attachments, by our own aversions. No one is forcing us into that. Okay? But let's say we had the clarity to choose where to be reborn. As we have the clarity now to choose, do I want to drink water or not, okay? Where would you like to be reborn? Country, start, continent. How do we choose the parents? It's quite difficult actually. Huh? At least when I thought about it myself, I was there, I said, oh, it's really, really tough to try to find a new rebirth in which I would have the same conditions that I have now. Being reborn in nice Buddhist parents, does that give me the certainty that I will be able to follow the Dharma? Not at all. Maybe they force me so much as I am a child that I have aversion to it afterwards. So that doesn't work. Maybe it works, I don't know. Being reborn in a family that is in the middle of the way, we don't know how it happens. You know, we can see this life. The conditions through which we come to the Dharma are so various. There is not like one fixed path. And sure, we have very strong connections with the Dharma and everything. But to make that imprint to ripen in our future life, that's not obvious. So, you know, thinking for myself, I said, to be able to meet a guru such as Rinpoche. That's not possible. So, to create the conditions that I have now, it's impossible looking from my own perspective. Which that's the reason why we need to make the good use of it, that we have this opportunity now. So the first step that we do on the path is to have the joy of the opportunity that we have, that comes with the urge to make a good use of it. When we have this feeling, we cannot take holiday from making our life meaningful. The concept of to entertain oneself in sense of let's make the time pass. It's actually crazy. Because we have the greatest of all opportunities, and what we do? We make it pass. It's not that we let it pass, we make it pass. Non lo lasciamo passare, lo facciamo passare appositamente, no? How? We want to entertain ourselves. I like entertainment. I tried somehow to give some sort of a meaningful aspect to it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's just a trick to justify my relaxation. But the point is that we need to develop this inner state of, wow, how fortunate I am. I really have special conditions. And I am not better than anyone else. I just have a better condition. Why me and not other ones? I don't know. That's causes and conditions. I am here, but I need to make a good use of it. Now this made me remember something that it's not the right thing to say in this context, but okay. There are sometimes things that come, if I don't say it, then it just gets stuck there. No? And we don't need to discuss why we are in these conditions. The important thing is what we do with it. No? One time, someone came to me, many years ago. I don't know, at least maybe 15 years ago. I don't know exactly. And someone came to the monastery, was a man. And then he arrived there to stay some time in the monastery there with me. And he said, Lama, first night we are having dinner, he said, Lama, I don't know truly why I am here. If it's because I fall in love with you or because I have faith in you. And I looked to him and I just said, it doesn't matter. The important thing is that you make a good use of the time you are here. Why you came here, maybe there is a mixture of both. And that's not the question. The question is, now you are here, so let's make a good use of it. So, how come we are having these wonderful conditions that we have? What we did in the past to have to be here? Which were the conditions through which we have this incredible opportunity? I don't know. I really don't know for myself, and I don't know for you. And I don't care. I really don't care. I was recognized as the reincarnation of certain masters. So someone came to me, Rinpoche, another master, say, oh, this was your previous life. No. Genjanchu Chöpel, Drupcho Gyawa Samdrup, and so on. And I met people that have met them, like at least my last previous life. I never asked anything. Because I had somehow this insight that I don't need to identify myself on things that were done somewhere in the past. I need to identify myself with what I am now and what I do now. And why I am here? Which were the conditions that allowed me to be here right now? The cause and the conditions. At this moment, it doesn't matter. I say this because sometimes come, what I did in my previous life, and we were together, and I was here, and I was, how many times I saw people coming to me, I am sure I was a monk in my previous life, and I was this, and I was that, And when I hear this, I'm sorry to say, I think, and then so what? It doesn't matter if in your previous life you were the king, or you were the slave, if you were the monk, or the lama, or the police guy, or anything else. The important thing is what you do now with what you have. What we do now with what we have. That's what really matters. We had so many lives in the past. We did everything, all sorts of things before. We did all sorts of things. The important is what we do with what we have right now. Okay? So, all of this just to say that in the present moment we have conditions that very difficultly we can recreate again. Very, very, very difficultly. Conditions that are very precious. So, what do we want to do with it? With this, we should gradually meditate in the sense of analytical meditation, first of all. It's like if we try to explain to someone why we have a precious opportunity, why our life is precious, which are our freedoms, which are our endowments. No? Let's check one part here. For example, like here are many details. When we talk about the traditionally, there are 18 conditions to practice the Dharma. Okay? Which are the 18 freedoms and endowments. Which is Delwa Gyedan Jorwa Chu, 8 freedoms and 10 endowments. But the essence of it is that we have the time, we have the inner space, we have the freedom. We are free from being in the animal realm, we are free from being in a constant, strong state of suffering. We are free from being in a war zone, we are free from having faulty senses. We have wealth, we have health, we have time. We have mental capacity to understand things and to project ourselves. We have free will. We have freedom. From a very more superficial point of view also. There are people in this world that don't have freedom to choose their religion, their practice, their path. Not few people like this. No? Do we need to feel guilty or do we need to hide from someone in order to come to meditate or to come to a Buddhist center? Maybe 30 years ago, yes, not now. Maybe in our culture we didn't need to hide away to go to a Buddhist center because someone will punish us for that. But I saw many people for many years needing to hide from their families and friends that they were going to a Buddhist place because there was a negative judgment about it. Nowadays it's almost in fashion. You know, oh look how cool I am, I go to a Buddhist place, you know. Okay. So we have freedom, which is not obvious. We have guidance, we have teachings. It's like we have conditions that are so difficult to have. And we need to rejoice about them. We need to wake up in the morning and think about the qualities until we have this deep feeling of, oh, I am fortunate, I am grateful, how wonderful what I have. It's like recognizing the preciousness of where we are, of what we have. And I repeat once again, it's not that we are better than others. We have a better condition. Because I am very sure, if we take any one of us and we put ourselves in the conditions there are around the world, and many, even not far from us, I don't know how much better we will do than the people that are there. Sincerely speaking. What happens is that we create a strong connection. If in our next life we will be able to have the conditions to use that connection or not, we don't know. The connection doesn't go away unless we break it really. Okay? If this comes on the next verse afterwards, because there is methods and ways for us to keep these conditions from life to life. That's why we need to act with awareness, so that the minimum scope, the small scope is, I want to keep good conditions from life to life. It's more important that I have a continuity of these good conditions than having just pleasure in this life right now. So for example, which are conditions in order to be able to keep good conditions in our future lives? We need to avoid violence. We need to act with respect, physically, verbally, possibly mentally. We need to keep our commitments. We need to develop love and direct our mind in a virtuous way towards the future. If we do this well, there is no doubt we will have a good continuity on our path. In other words, we have a wonderful condition, we need to keep moving the positive interdependence. And then if we remain inside the positive interdependence, that will continue. But we cannot lose this opportunity as we are here, because it's possible to lose it. So, it's not something that you gain once and then there you are. It's done. It's something so precious that we gain that we need to take care. It's like if someone comes and brings us a beautiful tree, but that is still small. It's not because we have the tree that the tree will always blossom and would always be beautiful. We need to water it, we need to protect it from the cold, we need to do all the things necessary for it to constantly blossom. There will be a time where the tree will be so big and strong that we don't need to think so much about it, because the tree by itself will take care of it. Or it's like a small baby. We have a precious life in our hands. We need to feed the baby, we need to protect the baby, we need to take care of the baby until one day that the baby is an adult and can take care of himself or herself. These opportunities we have now, we need to take care, we need to cultivate them until we can reach a certain state where the state in which we are by itself it's naturally creating the conditions for it to continue. Okay? But right now, for most of us, we need, with awareness, to take care of it. Because our tendency is just to survive, just to let time pass, instead of making a good use of it. Okay? So, we do have this wonderful opportunity. And this is not something just philosophy. This is life. And I don't care if you are Buddhist, but I really care if you can actually recognize the preciousness of this life and feel the joy in the morning as you wake up. You know? So if we ask, okay, following the path that Buddha taught us as a Buddhist, what's the first step? Recognize the preciousness of the conditions that you have in this life. Feel happy about it. Develop joy of gratitude, rejoice about it. You know? When we see the sun in the morning or the rain, they are both important. I always feel strange when people say, oh, today is a bad day because it's raining. Why? I don't get it. Why? Rain is bad? Maybe we don't have the pleasure of the sun shining in our skin. And we don't have the pleasure of the strong light of the sun. But if we never had rain, we would not even feel the pleasure of the sun. You know, in the desert when it rains, people make big parties. So how beautiful that I have rain today. So I can enjoy the sun tomorrow. And then it can nourish the earth. And it can fill up the water resources that we can drink and use and everything else. So wonderful. You know? Then we have a day, then it's cold. Oh, that's good. Winter is coming, you know. It's hot. It's summer. Wonderful. Let's enjoy it. But it's really important that we rejoice of the conditions we have. And we don't get distracted by small, stupid things on our daily life. Because our tendency is to be very much distracted, and I cannot feel the joy of life, of the conditions that I have that are so precious. It's like if someone comes and gives me a new car. And I didn't have a car for such a long time, and I was wishing so much to have a car, and suddenly someone comes and gives me the best car. Then I looked to it and I said, oh, but I wanted the seats to be clean, not dark color. I want the seats to be white, and the seats are black. You know, and then you get obsessed by the seats of the car. Instead of then you never use the car because the seats are not in the right color. Or you complain that there is some little mark on the car, and I cannot use that car because it has a little mark on it. You know? We have the most wonderful opportunity. Is it perfect in all aspects? No. Sure, we have many little things that we need to deal with in our life. That's normal. But this doesn't take away the opportunity that we have. It actually makes it better if we know how to use it correctly. If our life had no difficulties, we would have no ability to see our defilements in order to overcome them. So we have incredible opportunities. So we need to rejoice. We need to say, wow. And in order to do that, we need to remind ourselves of it so many times. That's called analytical meditation. Every day, remember how precious my life is, how wonderful opportunities I have. And we repeat this to ourselves again and again, again and again, again and again, again and again. until we are able to feel this joy that comes from within, not from the head. In the beginning, it's from our head. We need constantly to remind ourselves of the preciousness of this life. Until we make such a good, let's say, brainwashing, we train ourselves into it so clearly, that when we less expect, we feel the joy of having these wonderful conditions spontaneously. Then we can go to the next step. Okay? So, it makes a big difference, you know. If we are able just to make the first step on the path, which is possible for all of us, already makes life so much better. Because we start rejoicing about our conditions in our life instead of complaining. We really see, wow, well, look what I have, instead of focusing ourselves on the little black dirt spots, you know. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. She's saying very often feels the joy and the gratitude, but which are the best words how to express it? Hmm? I think that the best way how to express it is truly to manifest saying, I am very grateful for all I have, and I will make it meaningful. I will not let it go. I would not lose this opportunity to serve others. I will use this opportunity truly to make a difference. I cannot have these wonderful opportunities and then when my life is finished, everything was just as in the beginning. I must make a difference. I must use this opportunity so every day that passes, every year that passes, I am someone better than the one that started. I need to meditate. I need to make my prayers. I need to help others. I need to put into practice the Dharma. Because it's too precious just to let it go. And the best way how we can actually manifest our gratitude is by growing. You know? One time, one master from another tradition, not Buddhist master, from the Hindu tradition, he made one example, a metaphor which I thought was really beautiful. He said the role of the guru is very similar to the role of a gardener. Okay? The gardener, he will take care of the plants. He will put water. He will put aside the parasites. Okay? He will take care of the plant in many ways. And what is, how to say, what can the plant do to the gardener? Can blossom. Okay? The gardener cannot make a flower blossom. And in order to make the flower blossom, he cannot force anything. What the gardener needs to do? Bring water, good earth, and everything else. So what can we do to our guru? We can blossom. You know, that's the best offering that we can make. The guru is like the gardener. He puts water, you know, puts little way the interferences, he tries to take care, show us the path. But what we can do the best for him is to blossom. Because what gives the greatest satisfaction to the gardener? When he looks in the garden and it's all blossoming with beautiful flowers. You know? Which, this is the work of the flowers, not his work to blossom. You know? Similar to that, we need to blossom. We need to manifest our joy, peace, compassion, love, care, respect, gratitude. We need to blossom our qualities. We need to grow up beautifully. That's the best that we can offer to anyone that takes care of us. Okay? So, this is how we make this life meaningful. Okay? So we say, as I have this wonderful opportunity, I cannot let it go. I must make this life meaningful. I must use it in the best way as I can. Okay? So I would like just to take the opportunity, as we will conclude now. These days, if you can actually get this book, okay, that we have in our shop, we have both in English and in Italian, and also Spanish. It is written also in Tibetan. Okay, there is always Tibetan with it, because I don't trust translations, not even my own translation I don't trust fully, so always better to have the original language together. Anyhow, this book is called The Heart Spoon, a raw practice of the experience of the path, a trace of notes taken by Paponka de Chenyimpo. Okay, and it's one of the books that touched my heart deeply regarding the path to enlightenment. It's a bit strong somehow, very direct in many ways. But as we will be going these days through the stages of the path, I think this is a very good support for us to read and to go through. It's actually very small. It's not very long. It doesn't go into many details, but it's very pure. It's very clear in many ways. Okay? I don't know. For me, at least, it touched me very much when I read it, and I received it commentary and teachings about it in the past also. Okay. So, with this, we conclude this first part, which is just the first line of verse 85, which says, Lenchik tsampe nyepe delchur di. Lenchik one time, tsam only. Lenchik samshik. Lenchik one time, samshik one only opportunity, nyebe, to find deljor. Del freedom, jor richness, to get, di this. So, when translating, if we make a literal translation, we'll say, this life, or this freedom and endowments is found but once, and is difficult to obtain. Okay? So literally is that. The verse, when it's translated all together, starts realizing how this freedom and endowments is found but once, is difficult to obtain, and then the next part that we will go later, it says, and is easily lost. Okay? Yes, we have wonderful conditions. How long will they last? I don't know. So we cannot, tomorrow I make my life meaningful. Today I just relax. You know? If we relax from our bad habits, we are already making our life meaningful, you know. So, we will see this after. But first, just to develop this joy. My life is beautiful. My life is meaningful. I am so grateful. You know, for everything I have in many, many levels. And normally, which are the basis to give value to something? The comparison to something else. Right? That's how we do. Why I am fortunate? Because we compare to something else and we say, look at that. The conditions we have, if we compare to the world around us, to the people that we know, and to the more vast majority, we are extremely fortunate. You know? And this is not just a mental gain. It's facts that if we look to it. So we need to repeat again and again this to us. Instead of comparing, but he's better than me. That's what you think, first of all. And if he's better than you, we're happy for him. But I have opportunities that most people don't have. So I must make a good use of it, at least to be able to continue to have such opportunities. That's the minimum. And that's the small scope. Okay? So how I do that, that's the next verse. First our awareness. Then the next verse said how to do it. That's the next step, which in essence is abandon what is harmful, cultivate what is beneficial. That's the essence of it. Okay?
Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar tinle chochur gepadang losan tempe drume sasum ki drove munsel taktu ne gyurchi Sashi pöke chushi meto chan rirab she nide gembadi sange shindul mikte ulwargi drukun namda shingla che parasho yidam guru ratna mandral kam niryata yami kewa kundu yanda lamada drame cheki pela long ching Sadan lamgi yönten rabzone dorje change kopanyur tobesho Nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delekshi Ninsen takto delek pe kuncho sumke jingelo kuncho sumke ngodrupso trashisho At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. All'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il giorno, possano i tre gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni. Possano aiutarci ad ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio. Oma huntemba lame sangye rinpoche, kyoba lame tamcho rinpoche, drimba lame gendu rinpo, kyamne kuncho sumla chepa, bu locho sambo pa gyu trashipa, tuche tempe trinle yarngoda, pege drolo zambe zebrace, panden lame shela chepa, bu. Buon appetito. Ok, ritorniamo alle 5. We come back at 5.